welcome to another episode of Real Living with Parrots. This is Debbie the Parrot Lady, and we're here to show you some cage cleaning techniques in our small bird room. In this case, our small bird room is pretty messy, and what we kind of prefer to do is to show you guys how we need to keep these guys clean. So in this room, I have cages that have toys and stuff like that. This is the Nande baby's cage. Baby's still on Luna. And the very first step we ever do is take off our papers and dump whatever food's on the bottom of these papers into the garbage as step number one. Ta-da! And then we have a relatively clean tray because we have papers on top of it instead of having to clean the tray as well. And so you have to do a deep spring cleaning. I also have a tray up over the top of the birds that I also have covered, but they've gotten a few poops on that one, so we're going to have to pre-soak that. And what I like doing with these poops that are hard like this is to give them a little bit of pre-soaking, because pre-soaking like that makes it a lot easier to clean it later. I push that tray aside, leaving me with a lovely cage to clean. So also when I'm in here, I'm looking at different enrichment things and seeing how the birds are chewing on things, and if I think it's necessary to kind of turn things around or change things, I kind of look at that as well. So sometimes when I'm looking at a cage, I'm also looking at its enrichment when it comes to toys and things like that that are in here. So as with all my cages, the small cages are actually harder to do than the big bird cages. I posted a previous video on cleaning the big bird room, but these guys are definitely much more challenging to clean, especially when they're in the same living space as me. So in this case, these guys are in my office. Never planned my office to be a bird room per se. I planned it to be a nice quiet space to be able to do office kinds of things, but things change. And that's the one beauty about having a business, is that things are always in a flux and they're always changing. So what I have in my bucket is I have Palmolive dish soap. It's a very biodegradable type of dish soap. So should they have any kind of residual soap that they might be eating, it will not get into their systems and harm them. I also like using Dawn dish soap as well as those. Whenever I do clean, I try to start at the top and work my way down. So that way I am not going to be dropping anything that might be up on top. As a matter of fact, I forgot to do one thing, and that is to make sure that soap doesn't fall in water. I'm going to take the water out. Going to come over here, take the food out. This cage has 2 feeding stations because I keep 2 birds in it. Some people would disagree that this cage would be big enough for 2 Nandes, but they seem to really enjoy it, so that's what matters. And right now they're outside in an aviary where they can fly while I work, because these guys, we'll change them up a lot so they get different experiences. So cage size, as long as you have them out and doing things, doesn't always matter. So some of these poops and stuff that are on here get a little bit difficult to take off. So again, I use a little bit extra moisture to work on them. I really like these wood platforms that I get at NPRPF every year from, I can't even remember the name of the vendor. I just know exactly where they're located when I go to visit NPRPF. They're like the very first vendor that's there. I want to say it's Busy Beaks, but it's not, because Busy Beaks is on the inside. And I like their toys too. But these wood platforms are awesome. The birds really like it. And I like the fact that it's got the bark on the outside. And so the birds really like chewing off on that. I do believe that this is a king's cage. but I'm not sure about cages anymore. This cage was a donation. We tend to take in cages and birds and find better places for them to go. If not with me, with another sanctuary or something like that, or rescue that might need a cage for a bird. So this happens to be one of the many donated cages I've gotten in the past. I like this particular cage because it has a flat top, so I can put that tray over the top, so I don't have to worry about little parrots walking across on the top of it and getting their toes bit. So this way I can protect everything from the top. I noticed in this room we had some difficulties with birds chewing on toes, so I had all my cages changed to flat top cages, so that way I can cover the tops, so when parrots are walking around on top, they're not walking with a parrot underneath that can get hold of them. When you work with multiple parrots, it can be very difficult because you're constantly managing the interactions and how they do things and look at things and explore things. You want them to explore these things, but at the same time, you want them to be relatively safe. So it takes about the length of this video, which is can only be 10 minutes long, to clean just the cage itself with the soap like I'm doing, much less doing any of the floors. In this room is more of a typical household room where it has carpet. I really recommend that if you have a bird at home, if you can put them on a linoleum base floor versus a carpet floor, it's so much easier to take care of than a carpet floor. So I recently purchased Home Depot's carpet covers in here. So that way, like an office chair kind of cover thing, but in a very large size, to cover a little bit more of the room to make cleaning the floors a little bit easier. So overall, every day I change their papers. I don't do this scrubbing of perches and stuff like this every day, and monitor it throughout the week. And if it gets really bad during that first week, I clean it off, the sections that are bad, but leave the rest. And then once every 2 weeks is the thorough cleaning on every surface that you're about to see me do. Not just the poopy surfaces that have the poop on it, but all of it. And sometimes it's easier to take perches out and soak them in a bucket if they're really bad, just like I did with this tray. This tray that I did pull out is almost ready to go. But before I clean a poopy tray, I want to clean these feeding stations before we have too dirty of water first. And that's what I'm doing first. These feeding stations, including this foraging toy here that Bo likes, so I'm going to change that one over to Bo's cage. I switch birds from cage to cage too. I like switching birds in their cages because then they don't become too attached to any one spot or cage if I can. Again, for that enrichment piece too. So, the one thing nice about having papers down in the big cages is I don't have to worry about these grates. So I've got all the feeding stuff done there. Looks like this toy here has a little bit of poop on it, so I'm going to take a look at it. See if I can clean it off, or if the toy needs to be removed completely. It looks like I can just clean it off, which is good. I see some chew action on the kebabs of this toy, but not a whole lot. So I might change its location because it's not being chewed on much. There you go. So I just had that slid there. So I might change this guy up. The other thing I do when I do this 2-week cleaning is change where things are located, change what might be in there. That's their water side. So as to where to put things, it can be very tricky as to how you might want it in somewhere or not. Like, I like this spot where it's been at. And I do see that there's some chewing on this. I like this as a puzzle toy. There's some chewing on it, but not a whole lot. So I think I'm going to change this guy to where this guy was. And put this guy in between these two perches to increase activity. There we go. Close up the links. And there you go. So now I'm going to work on these grates. And it's kind of, you pinch around the grate, makes it easier to clean. And this cage, like I said, is older. Another thing you can do with these cages is pull the grate out to clean. Wow. Which is convenient. I like that idea too. So there's two ways of doing it. With the big cages, the grates can come out too. This is what a lot of people do, is they'll take the grates out like this and they'll power spray it. I'm putting this on the tray I have here that's already got some moisture on it. So take some of these poops off of here. So myself, I don't spend a whole lot of time on keeping things extremely sterilized. I think having a little bit of natural flora and fauna in an environment is a good thing. So if there's a paint chipping going on and it's not perfect, I don't worry too much about it unless I see problems in blood work or problems in behavior, like significant behavior change in these guys. So, and I tend to take a look at things, see how they're going. So there's some wear on this, but not so bad that it's completely dangerous. Alrighty, there you have it. The grate is now clean. Slide it back in. We're ready to push this back up. Doop. Just like that, goes right back in. Yay! On this top tray I've had here, as it is soaking, so I'm going to pour the water that's in there back in the bucket. And you can see how easy it is that this just wipes right off. Without much scrubbing at all. Little pieces here and there. And a little piece right there. And that's all nice and clean. Quite as much right in that corner there. There we go. And then, after I clean this all off, I go get the paper towels and dry it off. Slide that in there. And grab myself a wipe. Tissues will do. And wipe it down. So now, this cage is clean for the next couple of weeks before I do a thorough everywhere once more. So every day or every other day I change the papers like you saw. Once a week I check on poop, and then once every 2 weeks clean the whole caboodle. So I hope you guys have enjoyed cleaning cages, the boring episode.